Welcome, everybody. Nice to see you all. This is a program of poems that some of which I've never performed before, and others that haven't been done in some of them as much as 40 years ago. I've never seen the light of day until today, and so we're going to begin the program right now. Rarities. This first piece is actually the very first poem I ever wrote. Well, not exactly the very first poem I ever wrote. The first poem I ever wrote was in New York, and I lost it, and I didn't write another poem for 6 years. But when I moved to Arizona, I wrote this poem one day, sitting at my kitchen table and looking out the window across the street. It was in early April. It was a stormy day, and it's the poem that got me going, and I've never stopped since.
Stormy day.
Yeah. And so this is the one that kicked it all off. It's called Kite Tails in a Tree. The winds of March abruptly die as April skies are born to cry. Children who once stood and flew majestic kites against the blue have gone inside, escaping rain. Their noses pressed to window pane. They look for promise in the skies as nature's tears roll past their eyes. But all that's left outside to see are kite tails tangled in a tree. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was the one that started it all off. And then I stopped rhyming poems right after that. This next one is again another one that I haven't done in probably 40 years. And Tom's going to be playing some music that he became familiar with when he first started to master the guitar back in the old days when they only had 2-string guitars.
When my guitar teacher was Antonio De Petri, 24th Street in Thomas.
There you go.
A violin teacher, but he taught me guitar when I was 12.
Thank you, mistress.
Thank you, Mr. Yeah, Anthony's Music, right across from, what's that restaurant at 24th and
Green Gables.
Green Gables.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
The guy on the horse.
The guy on the horse. A great work if you can get it.
We need a song about the green horse.
I loved Green Gables, and I loved Mr. Anthony, my great
Well, write
teacher.
him a song.
okay. As I said, this poem was inspired by T.S. Eliot, and the poem that inspired it was the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, which I know some of you are familiar with. Great poem, and this was my early. Back in those days, when you first started to write, imitation was the sincerest form of flattery, and you tended to write like the people that you really admired. And so this was my attempt to sound like T.S. Eliot. It's called The Bathers. In the warm summer of the afternoon, white flannel trousers rolled below his knees. He stands back from the place where the white shore is mated now with wet, sensuous salt. And young girls ride upon the courting waves with bellies arched into the hot-tongued sun. The sea, still green in its own youth, explodes and drives its passion into tangled caves. Then, in the autumn of their afternoon, white trousers rolled above his spindle knees, he stands at the point where the sand is wet, stained blood deep brown and drying in despair. And women's heavy breasts like great ships rise and fall before the fevered, parched-lipped sun. His tired tide recedes from blue-veined hulls, from empty hollows wet with memory. In that cold hour when the moon arrives, he hears the cruel, consoling northern wind. The withered water lies on its deathbed. The sun has bled itself into the night. Thank you. Hi, Gary.
Tom, can we bring the guitar down just a little?
Yep.
That last phrase really struck home. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
This next poem is another oldie. Goes back to about 1981, 82. It takes its title from
You're trying to decide what's good. Okay.
it takes its title from a Bruce Springsteen song.
Born in the U.S., no?
Different one. Actually, it was Born to Run. And the title of the poem itself is Tramps Like Us. I wonder where it is you go when you go. I used to imagine you lying in illicit darkness, fingers vaguely searching out differences, while the ice in tall glasses melted, and his cigarette burned until the ash dropped onto the scarred nightstand. Once I pretended you were dead. With curtains drawn, I walked around the house, touching objects suddenly sacred. A book, your coffee cup, an overdue bill from Sears. In the morning, I would sell them as relics. Move to Tangier. Thank you. You can tell that's an old poem. I referenced Sears. Okay, this is another old poem. The poem was actually written in the 80s, but it harkened back to a decade earlier when I was young and almost as foolish as I am now. And it has to do with the main ingredients that really fueled us in the 70s. The name of the poem is entitled, and some of you may relate to this, it's called Hashish and Tequila.
Long intro. Jen, long intro.
Light crashes into the adobe wall of Rosalita's all-night house of carnal hangovers. I sit over by the Che Guevara poster, talking with the hunchback from the park. And Mario, who used to deal down on the boulevard. Upstairs, Frankie and Pasha pump the last sweat of summer through their pores as the old Dominican fondles his teeth at the bar. The Humpty Dumpty man comes in bringing leftovers from the brain barbecue.
Lonely boy in town.
The Eagles
She's
throb on the jukebox.
jukebox.
Nixon lies on the tube. And we take another hit. Armando spills the salt. Hard times ease from the spleen. Saturday night wakes up on Monday morning. Tucson turn to Tucumcari. Sometimes we think about dying. Sometimes about hell. But this is one of those sweet times we barely think at all. Thank you. This piece I wrote in the late '90s, and probably the last time I did this piece was been at least 15, 20 years ago. But it appeared in a chapbook that I had written at the time called Reading Kafka in Kansas. And the piece is entitled The Day Before Photographs Were Invented. This is how I imagined you must have been in the soft heat of twilight. I see you naked, hands across your breasts, the illusion of modesty as I fumble with the buttons of my shirt, fingers hard from tearing out the engine of that old Camaro. You smile, like in a photograph, one I might have taken if cameras had been invented yet, or if I had thought this moment wouldn't last forever. Thank you. It's for Barbara. This is another piece from the early 80s. This was a kind of a party piece when I first started performing poetry. And again, it's the one I really haven't done in at least 30 years probably now. It's nice to do it again. It's called Allegory of Time and Passion. In springtime once, I went to watch the strippers at the Adirondack Bar. Each girl danced in the spotlight, eyes focused on the bald-headed man by the cigarette machine, whose wife sat at home in a dusty peignoir, cutting coupons for Meow Mix, and wondering if the cats would live long enough to collect the insurance. The dancers, meanwhile, left little to the imagination and nothing to their cats. Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
Can I just clarify that the poem wasn't for me, just the drums?
The drum. Well, Barbara provided
Good
the
point.
poem is not based on Barbara's life or soul space, but she gave us the djembe.
Yeah. Back in the 80s, there was a place in downtown Phoenix called the Deuce, which was where the homeless lived, and until they got kicked out the first time, and then and I used to at one point I was a volunteer for Andre House, and they would bring meals to the people in the evenings, and because I'm a poet, I didn't just deliver meals, I also gained inspiration. And so this is a poem that's about that experience. It's entitled Postcard from Madison Street. Here we are in the morning that lingers in the cracks of the sidewalk. Here we are in doorways, in sweat-stained tents, and the slack-jawed skeleton of a '79 Ford. Thanksgiving has come and gone. Christmas has come and gone. Easter isn't here yet, but every day's Good Friday. In the X-rated afterbirth of afternoon, we tumble out of old shoes, boxes, and illicit dreams. Sometimes we dance on the umbilical chain anchored to the padded womb at the edge of an empty-bellied sunset. Black smoke roasting in an oil drum fire keeps us warm while we wait for food to come in big scarred pots served up by Methodist ladies. Red-faced elks on leave from the lodge, and good Catholic girls, as immaculate as the exception to the rule. A crater crescent moon makes hollow eyes look holy. And here we are, standing in line with paper plates, or leaning against a car to have a smoke, talking a hot sauce, hot breath, chitlin kind of talk with hard laughs and pulls from the bottle. Hey, there's Irene, who talks to Jesus. Sometimes she's mad, sometimes she's in love, and Jesus never knows just how to take her. There's Michael, the transvestite, a delicate dream in black chiffon, spiked heels, platinum hair, lips a hungry shade of red. And over there, Otis brings his scab-dazzled arm to life again. And here we are, in the red-eyed bleariness of twilight, street smart, sleep-taught, our back page horoscope on hold. Scent of stale piss and tequila strangles the air, and the line begins to move past Methodist ladies, Catholic girls. And here we are, the lonely, the unclean, the certifiably insane, the strung out, struck out, internally bleeding, eternally hopeless, vacant-eyed, glass-skinned, broken-toothed. Sister, brother. Thank you. Some of you know I like films. A lot of you know I like films. This is a film that a book that a poem that I wrote that is kind of a tribute to cinema, and so I called it Cinema. bright sunlight, and the rush of angels, a camera unchained to move between darkness and infinity. The dream of celluloid, indelible at daybreak, and the visual word as it was in the beginning. When the moments first took form, with trains flying into stations, baggy pants, and Babylonian setscapes. Now, Avengers, avatars, birdmen, all digitally captured, but still the word, whether in color or shadow and light, the word still speaking with lips that move against the force of a magic sun. Thank you. These pieces that we'll be doing now are the ones up until that last piece were all 20th century stuff. So now we're going to move into the 21st century. These are all poems that were written in the last 25 years. 25 years. It's hard to believe we're a quarter of the way through this friggin' century. But this particular piece and cinema were both written for inclusion in a book I wrote back in 2017 called Rain is the Hourglass of Memory. And this poem is entitled The Blind Voice Whispering a Prayer of Confession. Tears of holiness and fragile moments, and innocence left to chance, stones flowering in the brittle sun, as our tongues relive this mist-infested act of contrition. Ghosts wandering in the fractured alleys as your eyes move across this cobblestone morning, like light captured in a shattered glass. The priest chants a litany as naked as the white, hard starlight, while a moon dropped inside a feral midnight dissolves to a pitch black vision of the beautiful St. Lucy. Thank you. While we're on the subject of saints, here's a poem that was written about particularly in New York City. It's a big deal on St. Gennaro's Day. They have a big get together in Little Italy, and people crowd the streets, and the churches are open, and markets are open, and everybody just eats and has a great time. And so this poem is entitled The Feast of St. Gennaro. In the half-light of September, all words seem holy. The castanets speak of vintage longing, the mandolins of fear. Each shadow holds its own reflection. Each mirror, someone's sigh. These are the streets filled with unanswered signposts, crowded with vague laughter, cleansed by vagabond rain. The gypsies wear Victrolas, and you are the last angel. Drunk on the music of Salvation's army band, and weeping into the borrowed night. Thank you. Back in the 60s and 70s, I'm sure you all remember this, album covers were part of the culture. And like Hashish and Tequila, this poem is a kind of a homage to those glory days of yesteryear, when we used to roll our J's on the newest album that we had just bought from the
Especially a
store.
double album like Wheels of Fire.
Yeah. And so this is a poem which is entitled "Rolling a J" on the album cover. We're bringing it all back home. For those of you who don't know what a J is, it's a joint or marijuana. And "Bringing It All Back Home" was a 1965 album by Bob Dylan, which was one of my favorites. So here's a kind of a look back again to those days. Rolling a J on the album cover of "Bringing It All Back Home." Time has lost its elegance. The second hand is the only one still at work. In this time of irony and crippled bones, night plays with recollection, but we no longer care about the evening's empire or where shadows run from themselves. The parchment pavement folds into oblivion. The light fades into the window. I grow old, and magic has been replaced by inclement weather. Perhaps I saw it coming. It was wrapped in a sword swallower's cape and looking for a vacant throat. Gloria Steinem wrote a poem once, not Gloria Steinem, Gertrude Stein. Gloria Steinem. Wrote a poem once called "A Piece of Coffee." And back in the 90s, I started doing some performance art, not getting away from poetry a little bit, kind of expanding my horizons. Matter of fact, Leslie Martin, who's here in the audience today, she and I worked together for a while as a part of a group called the Hungry Eye. And,
Oh, the Hungry Eye.
yeah, we made money doing it too, and it was kind of fun. But this particular piece, I ended up writing a performance sketch that we videotaped for a show in downtown Phoenix, and another dear friend of mine, Clotty Hammonds, was the person in the video, and we called the piece "A Piece of Coffee," and I videotaped her sitting there with a cup and saucer in front of her, and the entire piece was her sitting there watching the coffee, which was frozen, melt. And that's all she did. That was performance art, of course. She just watched the melting coffee. So The, in the 21st century, I decided to write a poem, not so much about the event, but just the idea of a piece of coffee. And so this poem came out of it. It's called A Piece of Coffee. Floating in the eye of lost conversation, gravity genuflects on the darkest Wednesday of the year. Were the marigolds to migrate, the skies would be pouring plastic raindrops, and we'd fill in the colors with water-weary palindromes, each fragrance catching in a throat of grinding gears. Yet here we are, splashing through another rainbow morning, with a sense of wonder and small miracles, learning how to smile again as our voices gather in the broken light. Thank you. This piece was written just a couple of years ago, and it's a love poem of sorts. It's entitled Of Shadow and Stone. It is raining, of course. I may be imagining this, and it may not be raining at all. It is quiet. But perhaps I am only thinking this because the sound is so self-contained. This is what I remember. We were lovers. I am almost certain. But then we became lost in the shambles of forgiveness and regret, trying to salvage truth from the rubble of sleep. You spoke my name while I forgot yours, and you failed to recollect mine, while I remember every syllable of you. The sunset abdicates to shards of darkness. I kiss you once, as if physics was a mystical occurrence, and watch you vanish like a fistful of smoke. Thank you. And just to prove that I'm still a working poet, this is the newest poem I wrote just a few weeks ago. It's entitled Dear Annette. I also want to remind you all before we leave you, this is the last poem, come back in December. At the Life Center, we're doing the 4th year of The Village in Winter. So we invite you all to come back for that. This is Dear Annette.
Who's in that?
Dear Annette, do you remember the time we swam into the oblivion of regret? It was the year I fell in love with David Bowie. It should have been you. I have an obsession with fog and the need to be unheard. This is why I go out after dark. Why I move every 6 months. Positively into the same house on 4th Street. I used to be in love with William Blake, but the introspection became too intense. I dream now in colors salvaged from the war. Tomorrow is Sunday. Don't tell God. He needs the rest. Thank you. Wild horses facing into the wind. A blinding sun and tangled telephone lines. An overgrowth of vines on this harpsichord fence. Mud and mist-filled streets, steel twisted around the roots of neon headstones. A bird circling the moment, oblivious to sound. Shattered windows and a broken doorway. A light rain washing the eyes of Greece. Listen, this whispers for you. Cold and muted and balanced on a razor edge of light as we pull back into darkness, into the mystery of forest. Thank you.